example, but shows like New Girl. I love that show with Zooey Deschanel. I think it's very funny. And one of the characters on the program is actually a Republican. And although the show as a whole might not have a really conservative message, that character is a very likable character. He spent an entire episode pretending to be a son of Mitt Romney, and it was very funny. And it got people kind of talking about Republicanism, or at least being introduced to it. You know, a lot of people watching New Girl might be of a leftist perspective, but if you have a character who has throwaway lines every once in a while about conservative issues, people might at least start to listen a little bit. So you have to have a balance between too much and nothing, which is basically what we have now. So we're going to go ahead and go to break, but after we go to a break, we're going to talk a little bit more about pop culture when we get back and how the GOP can go on the offense and message to millennials. So we'll be back in a few minutes.
You're on the 405.
Thank you for shopping Amazon.com. When you do, that makes you a sponsor of the 405 Media. Click on the Amazon banner on top of our homepage. Then shop. Simple. It costs you nothing. When you think Amazon, click one more time on the 405media.com, then on the Amazon banner. Thank you.
Hello, Amy.
Hi, Bruce.
Kurt Schlichter, welcome to the Wrap.
Hey, you guys, I'm already irritated. It's stupid liberals.
All right, so I imagine you liked Kathleen Sebelius' testimony today. So win, lose, or draw for America, quizzing Kathleen Sebelius with horrible congressmen with bad questions.
Institution with so many damn lawyers, they don't have anyone to ask a question worth a damn.
How do they get away with this?
As my article will say, I should have Hope and Change tattooed across my ass.
I see what you're saying, because it would be nice if the GOP took an aggressive stance on the electoral map instead of just hoping to retain.
And I hate to say it, but, Christie may be that guy.
I think Ronan Farrow is the one that the rumor is he's really Frank Sinatra's son, right?
I'm trying to figure out how somebody who doesn't know who the father of her fucking kid is lecturing me on my freaking moral thing.
The Wrap with Amy Otto and Bruce Carroll. Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on the 405media.com.
You're on the 405.
We've all seen the show Mad Men. Now live it with MadStyleVintage.com. Mad Style Vintage has everything you need to feed your retro addiction and live your vintage lifestyle. The mid-century modern focus will have you thinking pink refrigerators, vinyl records, and go-go boots. Go to MadStyleVintage.com. Click on their banner on the 405media.com. Click on the gallery link to see the latest and best of the retro lifestyle. Kicking it old school is what they do best. MadStyleVintage.com. They're a family-owned business. Tyler and his sister Kendra. They love the 405 radio. Love them back and shop their unparalleled selection of retro and modern. If you're near San Angelo, Texas, they're downtown at 9 West Beauregard. For the rest of us, visit their website, MadStyleVintage.com.
This is Tammy Jackson inviting you to join me on The Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. on the 405media.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberty, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that is not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific from me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
This is Katie Pavlich. You're listening to the 405 Radio.
Welcome back to Aim Right with Amy on the 405 Radio. Call-in number, as usual, is 877-297-8022. I was talking with Alberto before the break. We were talking a lot about pop culture, and during the break, we were discussing a couple of these ads that have come out from healthcare.gov, on Twitter, healthcare.gov on Twitter in the last day or so. And I don't know if you haven't been listening to these, go to Twitter and check them out. There's a couple really interesting ones. There's one of this guy in a superhero outfit, like falling down the stairs, and it's captioned with "Nobody is invincible." There's another one of this kid on a skateboard without a helmet, of course, about to fall on his face, and obviously using these ads to promote Obamacare. They're saying, appealing to the generation known as Young Invincibles, the millennial generation, who who think we are invincible, who think we don't need healthcare because we're probably not going to get hurt, which, is mostly true. But, the ads themselves are quite pitiful. And I know, Alberto, you had a few thoughts on that, so I'll let you go on it.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's indicative of the fact that they're really running out of ideas. And some of them are just absolutely disturbing with, for the group, the party that is generally very good at messaging and reaching out to people, they're extremely strange ads. For example, if you actually just scroll through the photos on @healthcare.gov, you will see, I don't even know how to explain these. There's a random musician, bearded of course, appealing to some fringe hipster group. He's got like a barely finished house or some other building behind him, and he's just holding a sign that says, #GetCovered. There's a guy making the Usain Bolt thing, although he clearly is not very athletic, strange hairdo, with a #GetCovered sign. Multiple of these like hipster photos, they don't make sense. It's just smiling guys with a sign. I saw one where it's a girl kissing a guy, and he's holding it like a heart, and it says "Get Covered," and they try a couple of them. They try to make some sort of a pun or some sort of culture reference, like "Don't rely on luck," and like a St. Patrick's Day thing. #Get Covered on a sweetheart, although I'm sure it's a sweet tart, really. They've got one where it's when it was snowing back about a month ago. They had pictures of cars trapped in snow, and they say, "Staying inside today? Enroll now." So I'm a little bothered by this. They even have like stock photos of children with scared faces. No health insurance? I mean, geez, that kid's going to be covered for at least 20 more years until he's jobless and 25 years old. And I think this really ties into the fact that their other policies aren't exactly friendly for you having a job or really having a stable economy. So they need you to sign up so that you can be on your parents' plan for years so they can go ahead and fund this massive program. And it's, I would say gladly, a bit of schadenfreude here, I'm glad that it's failing. I think sign-up rates for the young generation that they need to fund this is about 20%, and they need it to be much higher than that. And despite these blowout of ads, I mean, I've heard all sorts of things on Pandora and probably Hulu where they try to really push it, and it's not working. So shout out to the millennial generation for not buying into this and not buying it literally, because when this program collapses on itself, it will suck, but I think that the Republicans are going to step in, and I think they should step in right now, really, with a viable, definitive alternative plan to Obamacare.
I agree, and I'm glad you brought up that stat. The last time I checked, I don't know if they've released the most recent numbers, but only about 24 to 25% of sign-ups for Obamacare were young people. They needed 39% sign-ups from the middle generation just to make the program sustainable. So we're not even at the point we can sustain the program yet. And honestly, I don't think we're necessarily going to get there. It took the Social Security program 4 years to meet the quotas that they had shot for initially. And
absolutely.
I think you're right that it is time for the Republican Party to unify on an alternative to Obamacare. We have had alternatives pop up since 2009, 2007, actually, over the years, but they've been released on the internet. Nobody really talks about them, and everybody moves on. But it seems as if the GOP is actually putting together something that really will appeal, hopefully, to the average voter, because I think so many people on the left, the Barack Obama account tweeted out a picture the other day, maybe it was the White House or OFA account, I can't remember. Barack Obama actually is an OFA account. But it was a picture of Barack Obama that had a quote around his head, and it said something along the lines of, "It's better to be for something than against something." And while I think at its heart the Republican Party is for much better things than the people on the left, we're not as good at marking at. And I think what's interesting, and I think you touched on this, is that we have the left where they're using every marketing tactic they could possibly use because they know that their policies aren't actually going to appeal to people if they get the facts of their policies. So they're using terrible ads, they're using some good ads, but they're going all out. And then you have people on the right, you have the Republican Party, where we release ads every once in a while, but the ones we release really aren't very good. And we're kind of stuck between two extremes here.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's very disappointing because we have such an opportunity right now to seize the message and to really take hold of it and capture a lot of voters this way. That said, I do think a lot of millennials are not even aware of the fact that they should be signing up for Obamacare. But that aside, the Republicans need to come up with, a unified plan, as you said, and just hammer that single plan home. Sit down with some leaders from various parts of the party, work together and come up with something comprehensive, not just, piecemeal things and hope that's going to work, because it will fail miserably. Right now, the only narrative on anti-Obamacare is controlled by the Democrats, and all they're saying is, maybe if they vote another 50 times to repeal it, it'll go away. That's the only message that they have on Obamacare or an alternative to it. But back to our messaging and our ads, the GOP just actually released a series of ads really focusing on the diversity within the Republican Party, and that's something that I say we need to do for ages, because it's a very diverse party, and it's one that can grow, absolutely. We have lots of room for growth. But the way we message things is not so good, and this one ad in particular that we have is a guy, Scott Greenberg, and I'm sure Scott is a great guy, but the ad comes off as awkward because he's filling up his Audi, and he says he's glad he has a job, and he's not even looking into the camera the whole time. It doesn't feel genuine, and some of the people speaking to the camera have a very genuine feel. I don't know if we need to go find more people who can come across as better in ads, because not everyone is built for advertising. But the fact remains that we allowed these ads that I think are subpar quality to go through and get out there. I think it's a shame because we're really missing out on a valuable opportunity. And if you just say, why are we Republican? I think one very good example that we can use is the, blah, 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 and I'm a Mormon campaign. That came out a few years ago, and you watch it for a few minutes, and you get very attached to the character, you relate to them very easily, and at the end, they go, and I'm a Mormon. And it's almost like a zinger. It's like, oh, gotcha. And if we took that and applied it with the Republican Party, you would get so many fantastic ads about people speaking genuinely from the heart, not something scripted from the RNC, about why they are on the right wing. And, you would have to go ahead and get a diverse group of people, absolutely, but make it genuine. And I think that's the best way you're going to get people to say, we're an open party, we're an inclusive party, and we want you here.
Yeah, I agree. And I think on the right, we have this tendency to think that our ideas will automatically sell, that conservatism will sell on its face and we don't need to push it. Well, I think there's certainly attractive parts of small government and, pushing entrepreneurship and individualism and individual rights. But if you're not out there pushing it, if you're not bringing it to your audience, then no one's ever going to be exposed to it, and you have the left out there who uses every single marketing ploy in the book, who's using every single media outlet seemingly to push not only the Affordable Care Act, but their policies. And then you have the Republican Party allowing the left to control the narrative. And the problem is, while we might look down on some of their tactics in some cases, the average young person, while they're probably not going to sign up for the Affordable Care Act, if you see, an ad every once in a while from the DNC and nothing from the RNC, you're going to have this overarching perspective that the Democrats care about people and they're good people and the Republicans are, rich, old, white men, because we're letting the left control that narrative. And And that's what bothers me. And I think you're right that these ads, hipster ads,